Well, hello there, community. Welcome to DevCentral Connects. I am your host today, Jason Rahm, and we have a fantastic show in line for you. We're going to go through some headlines. We're going to talk about an upcoming book from the Office of the CTO, so it's going to be very exciting. But let me bring on my co-host of the day, Mr. Aubrey King. How are you, sir?
Good. How you doing, Jason?
I am this day. We are one day away from June 1st. 5 months in the books.
Yeah, and had a great long weekend. I hope yours was a little less busy than the past couple have been for you.
Well, it was not. We had high school graduation on Saturday, and then we had senior recital on Sunday. We had multiple family members in hotels and basements and crawl spaces, and feeding all of them. And so, yeah, it was not less busy, but it was a great weekend of celebration. We had a good time.
Nice.
So my teenagers have graduated high school, and so now we just got little man 14 years away. So I've got time. I've got time for the next one.
14. I only got 6 till that happens.
Yeah. I've got him 26 down to 4. So we've been at this school thing for a long time.
Yeah, it sounds it.
Yeah. Well, I have a question for you, sir, as we do at the top of these shows sometimes. I have a question for you. And the question is, since we're kind of at that summer picnic kind of thing, if you have a company picnic, like field day, what event at a company field day picnic would you most likely be to win?
Oh boy, that's hard. I so badly want to say kickball, but like my back just would not do that stuff anymore. Getting old, Yeah, it's tough. I've done a couple of things that were like fishing. I don't know if you're a fisherman, but I love to fish, and anytime I can get out in actually creeks, whatever, even that kind of thing is all doable. So as long as I'm outside, How about you?
I played a lot of sports, but I was in a small rural town in Missouri. So my idea of how good I was probably, not that great. So I do know I played tennis. I was fairly successful again in rural Missouri. I think it's one of our coworkers, maybe is Alex Applebaum, was like a collegiate player, maybe.
Wow.
And so I definitely wouldn't have much chance at tennis. Maybe watermelon eating contest or something. I don't know. How much watermelon could I put down?
I put down quite a fair amount this weekend, I have to say. Yeah.
Yeah. And John Wagner, if you're watching, yes, it would be with salt. And so, yeah, so I'm team salt with watermelon. Oh yeah.
Wow. I had, there was a shake on salty spice, I think called Tajín, that was in Mexico a couple of years back. I had that was sort of similar, but I get what you mean. That salty taste is kind of nice with the sweet of the watermelon.
Yeah, it almost makes it sweeter. It's kind of nice. So we got a hello from Nerd74. Welcome to the show. Glad you're here. And so let's get into the news of the day. What do you have for us?
Well, I don't know. For me, when I was looking out there on the interwebs, it seemed like the big news was Broadcom purchasing VMware. I mean, it's not through as far as I've seen yet, but man, what a big kind of acquisition notice. It seems like Broadcom has been just buying up software property and as well as platforms. I think that one of the things for me that I got out of reading the VMware stuff was, platform wise, that puts them in a very different position. I mean, they've got quite a bit of software technology, a software defined networking, and obviously their kind of switching pedigree that they've had for a very, very long time. For me to see them actually come forth and gain platform strength out of VMware, I think that's probably the biggest takeaway from me, that puts them in a different place.
So. Yeah, for sure. It was kind of a shock. I mean, I don't really have my ear to the street on a lot of that stuff. So a lot of the stuff that comes out is like shocking to me. But that one seems like that's a big play. And for me personally, I'm a VMware fanboy. I've had Workstation and Fusion for my Windows. Windows, and OS X platforms for, gosh, at least for VMware, it's got probably 20 years. Way back into my startup years, and that was 97 to 2002. So VMware's been around as long as that. So, love the products at the desktop level. Of course, they exploded way beyond that into, like you said, pretty mature platform and switching and all that. So it'll be interesting to see where that goes.
And absolutely. I mean, I think for me, I was used to seeing them mostly in the service provider market, but outside of service provider, I didn't see them a whole lot as a vendor. So this will maybe make things a little more exciting. I'm curious to see where this goes. So,
yep. Well,
what about you?
What
have you seen out there?
Yeah, so this weekend I was just kind of flipping through Twitter, and Malware Jake had a little thing on a Microsoft 0 day, and it's one that's kind of taking a look at a flaw in the Microsoft support diagnostic tool, and it allows execution through malicious macros, and even if if the macros around that tool are disabled. So, if you have that service enabled in your environments, you may want to take a look at that 0 day and what options there are to fix. I don't know if there is a fix action for that yet. There are some mitigations, but I don't know if there's a patch for it yet. So go out and look up. I looked at HackRead on the article, and we can share that link. In fact, I can share that link now. You want to go out and check that out. But I love to see analysis behind flaws, and if you follow the Twitter thread, just go out and look at Malware Jake's thread. He's got some analysis on that, and kind of cross-linking some other people's analysis as well.
It's always good to take a look at 0 days, right? I mean, I can't tell you how many times I've seen neat little iRules that'll be out there to just take care of 0 day right then. They say, well, we've got an unfixable problem, and lo and behold, that's one of those things where for me, iRules have always shined like crazy.
For sure. I love the iRule mitigation. A lot of people's like, don't build software on network devices and all that. And whereas, generally that should be true. You don't want to use it for that purpose, but for mitigation and the other things, like for problems that either can't be solved or organizationally people choose not to solve, then, iRules are great for that.
Yeah. Those last headaches are the most difficult ones I find. But so did you happen to see this other thing that I was talking about, the SoftBank announcement for us?
I did not. Fill me in.
Well, so essentially, we've got this is a press release that came out where we were mentioned. SoftBank has delivered 5G MEC in Japan. So SoftBank, for those of you who are not familiar, were one of our very first distributed cloud, public references, which was really nice. I mean, with the distributed cloud, we've got, it's a newer platform. Some of our customers are wondering, well, are people using it? That was the question I used to get all the time, really almost every day. Is there anyone who's actually using it? For sure. And this one for me is a really neat one because it showcases a little bit of a different side of F5, and that really is more service provider focused. Now I know Boo had Robin Mordashevitz on a couple weeks back. Fascinating interview if anyone didn't catch it, but it's Robin's always an interesting guy to chat with. So he talked a little bit about something called CNFs, and that would be if you've got this here, cloud native network functions. Now, for those of you who have heard me on the show before, I have come from a bit of a service provider space in the past. And CNFs were something that I was always cognizant of over the past, like 6-7 years ago. My customers were looking at CNFs and saying, move beyond VNFs. We really should talk about container network functions. So for me, the big thing to take out of the SoftBank announcement is the fact that we are doing CNF stuff on the distributed cloud. So that is a real good showcase of utilizing AppStack. So the the Kubernetes-ish functionality of the distributed cloud, where we can bring up containers on the fly, as well as provide that, that network connectivity. But going in here, and if you can take a look, actually, I'll highlight this here under f5.com products, cloud native network functions. If you're unaware of kind of what we're doing there, it is kind of fascinating stuff. And for those of you that don't know MEC, it is a good component of 5G, which will allow us all to really, I think, have networks without Wi-Fi. So if you consider like an IoT connected farm, something that's kind of very, very modern and forward thinking, where you've got thousands of temperature sensors and even drones that fly over to check and make sure that, fences are not broken, providing video footage and things like that. You can't really get a Wi-Fi network into a farm that is 100 acres or whatnot, but you can for sure get 5G MEC in a farm like that and have all of these IoT bots connect down through your 5G, your privatized 5G infrastructure, and then out to the greater internet proper, or maybe to interact with your farming servers. I know, isn't that crazy to say, farming servers? And that's so just a brand new way to kind of do things as far as connectivity is for enterprises, and also a brand new way to look at F5. I think we're going to be seeing a lot more in the way of Kubernetes here at F5.
Yeah, Kubernetes has taken over the world, really, and certainly, F5 OS is built on Kubernetes, and so it's it's fascinating to see the rapid adoption of not just that platform, but cloud native things, whether it's functionality or all kinds of tools that are out there. And if you go out and look at that cloud native ecosystem, like PDF, that's got divided into your data and network services and all that. It's mind blowing, and it can be overwhelming, right? Because especially if you're not there yet, you can kind of look at that chart. It's like, good gosh, maybe I should just change careers, because there's no way I can know all that. And it's true. There is no way any one person can know all of that.
What are these acronyms?
Got to start somewhere.
Yep, that's right.
That's right. All right. Well, another one that I had that I wanted to share was Jason 2 shared an article that he linked called Ennui, and it's how to feel engaged at work, a software engineer's guide. And it's pretty interesting because what we do on our team, actually, we have a very healthy protection against not being engaged, because we get to touch and do a lot of different things. So we get to play in a lot of spaces. And in some capacities, and what he fights is like, okay, I have this tool, whatever it is, whatever your ticketing tool is, whatever your, let me see. He said Jira. He's using Jira. A lot of alternatives to Jira, but it's like, okay, I've got tickets. I get to my desk, I work Jira tickets all day, and then I go home, and then I come back and I work Jira tickets, and I go home. And it's sometimes it's hard to see the forest for the trees when you're dialed into one little thing, and you just get into this malaise of, am I really making a difference in anything if I'm just fixing bugs or even solving one little problem, but it's part of this big massive thing, and you never really get the tangible success of a day that kind of lifts your spirits and all that. And so he goes through and talks about ways to overcome that in your job. And one of them is, make time to be curious. Just go out and learn. And one of the things I love about F5 is we do have our learn days once a quarter, where we can just dedicate a whole day to learning something, and it doesn't necessarily have to be focused on our day to day. I usually make it somewhat focused, but not always. Leaf Zimmerman, who is one of the members of our team, he and I did a virtual reality environment to where we set up avatars and we're walking around a virtual office space. So it's like I could be sitting in my virtual room and I look on my monitor and I see his avatar in his room. And without picking up a Zoom call or whatever, I just marched my avatar over there into his office, and immediately we're communicating. And so it was kind of interesting to see that kind of technology and how it would shape how we might communicate as a team. It's not there yet for Office. It's way too laggy, and I think you'd need like, a Mac Pro with 64 cores and 128 terabytes of RAM in order to make it work super well.
Yeah,
but it's
I did one of those for I had a customer that threw a party, and those immersive things, it's really nice. They had it broken down into separate rooms and things. You could tell people which room you were in, and each one had maybe different music. The thing that blew my mind was walking past random people also. If you were on your way to get a drink at the bar, which you can do with your avatar, you also have like a radius that you can hear, and it will conversation will come up randomly, like, oh, they're talking about 5G infrastructures or whatever, and then you can maybe engage. It's neat.
Yeah, and maybe Leaf can throw the name of the speakeasy. Maybe it was a speakeasy, but it had a disco room where you could go and dance and do all kinds of things and listen to music, and you could have an audio playing, and you could post a video on a board. So if everybody kind of walks up, the video starts playing, and you can take that in together, and you can talk while that video is playing, so you can have a conversation around it. And the coolest thing that I liked about it was spatial audio. So if you're 20 feet away from me, I can barely hear you, but as I walk closer, you get louder and louder if you were talking. But then also you're walking by on my right, and I only hear you in my right ear.
On the right, yeah.
So yeah, Verbella was the system that we were looking at, and I think it was mostly made for real estate people. But then they are expanding it into something else than that. But anyway, yeah, if you're interested in at least giving something like that a trial run, but back to my original point, be curious in your work. And then one of the other things, and he's got 5. I'll link the article. But the second one was, imagine you're the CEO. It's like, do the business case thought processes of why you do what you do and the impact that you make. And I'll tell a story from when I worked for Enterprise Rent-A-Car. We went through a class as new hires on the business of renting cars. And it was really fascinating because they walked through the entire business process of acquiring cars, how branches will move cars from like a local branch to the airport for the weekend, because if it just sits on for the weekend where they're not renting cars, then that money stays on the books of the local branch manager. But if they move the cars to the airport where they can be rented, not only does Enterprise make more money, but those cars aren't on the books for the local branch manager for those 3 days that they're at the airport. And so he's not taking on the operational costs of all of that. And so it was a really fascinating walkthrough, but it also gave us the perspective of when our group within IT caused problems that caused outages, it really impacted the business's ability to do their business. And so, imagining your CEO kind of walking through that thought exercise, it helps you to understand the value that you bring to your organization. And, with that, I know we could talk about news of the day over and over and over again. We do have the whole point of today's broadcast was to talk about this fascinating book about enterprise architecture that the Office of the CTO is putting together. They're not done. They have several chapters out. Before we play that, I just want to remind you, if you are not a member of DevCentral, go out to community.f5.com, register. We have an after show for 30 minutes after this video plays. We'll wrap up. Then we're going to go hang out for 30 minutes in office hours, after show, whatever. We'll talk more about the articles that we're talking about today. We can talk about the Office of the CTO, and you just want to come hang out with us and talk. Well, we can do that as well. So make sure you register and get to the DevCentral Connects group on DevCentral and meet us there after the show.
Always a fun time.
And we had a video.
The F5 community, DevCentral, has a new home. You can visit community.f5.com to get all your F5 technical questions answered or answer some yourself. We also got technical how-to articles, troubleshooting tips, and great insights on how to keep your applications humming. Of special note is our crowdsource area, and this is where you can share your own code and insights with the DevCentral community. Membership is free, and gets you access to special events, unique groups, and other enticing activities. Why don't you join today?
Everybody, today we are joined by Lori McVitie, one of our principal technology evangelists with F5. And Lori is one of the authors for an upcoming book that's to be released called Enterprise Architecture for Digital Business, Transforming IT. Looking forward to this coming out pretty soon here, Lori, but you were one of the contributing authors?
Yes, one of many. Most of the leaders in the office of the CTO were involved in writing this book, each one focusing on their specific area of expertise, as you will.
So with the release of this book, we actually have a preview that's going to be available for everybody. And we've got 4 chapters available for folks. So maybe we can spend a little bit of time actually talking about the first couple chapters that are going to be released that people can look forward to previewing.
Absolutely. I'm very excited about that. And they are raw and unedited. So
Wow.
You're going to find typos. Don't tell me. We'll find them. The chapters that are available are the introduction. So why is this necessary? What are we even talking about? What's an enterprise architecture? These are things that exist that you need to set a common understanding of. And then we move into that first chapter. What does it mean to modernize an enterprise architecture? These were developed in the 1980s and standardized over time before the internet and IoT and edge and mobile and cloud. So what does it mean to modernize your enterprise architecture so that you can adapt to change as quickly as you need to operate as a digital business? So the first few chapters are really setting that stage and then dipping your toes into infrastructure, edge, cloud, even down to DPUs, GPUs, NPUs, and IPUs, right? The XPUs, and a little bit of hardware. And it's a fascinating read about the infrastructure renaissance that's going on in this revival of interest in infrastructure in terms of hardware, right? Moore's law is dead. So we're turning to all these different cards to gain those performance efficiencies and speed that we need. So it's a very in-depth topic, and it's very interesting, and it's very relevant if you're going to go modernizing your entire infrastructure in order to support a digital business.
So on that, when you speak about modernizing architecture, are you talking about holistic architecture? Like you're mentioning not just, the applications, but you're talking all the way down to the brass tacks of chips on boards?
Well, we're talking about, you start at the top, right? An enterprise architecture is really about capabilities, about business functions, processes that need to be expressed as technology, whether in applications or infrastructure or in data, right? So it's an overarching holistic view of the business is represented by technology and how that technology supports it. And when you get into different domains like infrastructure, you have to get down to, how is the hardware being used and accessible, and what functions does it support in a digital business? So you have to get down to those levels in order to talk about really how do you modernize what's already there.
So the audience for this type of book, then, are we looking at like CIO, CISO type levels to give them a broad understanding of, what they should be looking out for in the next few years?
Yes, C-level, technology leaders, architects, IT architects will find much of this very interesting because it speaks to problems and challenges that they face as they're trying to build out that architecture and decide what fits where and where all those Lego pieces go.
And then the next couple chapters in the book, we've got marathon to messaging and data is the new oil.
Well, yes. So marathon to messaging, that's my chapter, and it's on app delivery. And I love it. It's the best chapter, of course, because I wrote it. I have to say that. Everyone loves their own. It's really about app delivery and how it kind of mirrors communication in the real world, and how the way that we've done it in the past is not necessarily the best way to do it, and how it's evolved. So it's, it takes that kind of, here's where we are and how app delivery has to change to support a digital business. Data is the new oil. Everyone says that. It's cliche, but it's still true. And the focus is really on operational data. So the telemetry and how that has to be incorporated, how it's different from traditional customer data or product data, and how it needs to be handled, processed, analyzed, and then used in order to create that 360-degree feedback loop, right? That's driving automation. So it's a really good chapter, and it's really broad because there's so much to talk about when you start looking at data.
Why is telemetry so critical now? I mean, it's always been important to have visibility, but why has it seemed to climb the ladder in criticality?
Well, that would take a book. Oh wait, we have one. It's really, well, first we distribute it, right? So we distribute it across cloud, multiple clouds, as a service, core, then we send people home. Now we have data and information all over. So we have all of these different places that we need to understand what's going on. What is the performance like? What is the security? What is happening, right? And there's data out there. And we haven't really had to rely on it that much in real time before, because the scale and reach of our applications was not as robust and pervasive as it is today, right? COVID really accelerated a lot of this digital as default approach to the world. And if you're going to be digital and rely on digital services, you have to know how they're performing, whether they're secure, where they are. And that requires data. And so all that operational data is giving you all of the signals you need to know to understand about the health of your digital business. It's like you've got a lot of data that's generated every second, like 11 million bits per second, you generate information. And you don't monitor all of those until, right, you need to in order to find out what's my overall health. Well, a digital business needs to monitor that 24/7 to understand, because we're distributed, we're bigger, and it's more important to the business now.
I think a lot of people will be looking forward to checking out this book. I think it covers a lot of topics that need to be addressed for the future of IT going forward. So if you're watching this now, wherever you're watching this from, there's going to be links to download these preview chapters of this book and to get a heads up on when the complete book comes out. Thank you, Lori, for joining us, and we will catch everybody on the next one.
Thanks.
Wow. So data is the new oil. I kind of need to see a Beverly Hillbillies parody of data versus oil with the bubbling crude. I need a new song. Peter, if you're watching, I need a new song.
Oh, he's watching. I think he's always watching.
For sure.
But it's always neat to see what Lori's working on. I got to say, she's such an interesting character around the F5 community. So great to see that.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and of course our research team is already on top of. Prabha had a comment here: F5 tighter integration to Azure App Services and managing of public endpoints. And we can certainly go deeper with that offline. Join us in the after show. But the research team's got some links in there for public cloud simplified with Azure and NGINX. And then we got Angus. Would the link be available later, or did I miss it in the crowd of links here? Link for what specifically? I guess it doesn't really matter. All the links will be available in the DevCentral Connects group on DevCentral, and we'll link to that in the show notes here in the description of the YouTube video. So all the links will be available.
Yep.
All right. Well, we are at time, almost perfectly at time. So
it would probably be a good time to mention that we are doing the after party. So if you're able to stick around, don't forget to pop on over to DevCentral and check the Zoom link. Everybody is welcome to join. So if you do want to come over and join us for a quick chat about any of the information that you saw here today, or really about anything, I mean, we're happy to talk. But don't forget to do that.
Yep. That's right. So yeah, if you like content like this, give us a like, hit subscribe, enable your notifications. We're here live every Tuesday, 8:30 a.m. Pacific, and we would love for you to join us if you're watching this on the replay. And of course, if you're here today, we look forward to seeing you again next week. And that's a wrap. Let's go over to the after show. Aubrey, thanks for joining.
Thank you, Jason. Always a pleasure.
The F5 community, DevCentral, has a new home. You can visit community.f5.com to get all your F5 technical questions answered or answer some yourself. We also got technical how-to articles, troubleshooting tips, and great insights on how to keep your applications humming. Of special note is our crowdsource area, and this is where you can share your own code and insights with the DevCentral community. Membership is free and gets you access to special events, unique groups, and other enticing activities. Why don't you join today?